The first item of business on our agenda of this work session is our Alice update. Superintendent Bishop.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Joe Schmidt and his team for this Alice overview. And it is nice that we do have very few things on the agenda, so this is a great time to really quiz him today, if you like. Thank you.
Oh, outstanding. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us. We're here to talk about the kind of where we're at with the Alice program. With me is Steve Brown. My name is Joe Schmidt. I'm the Senior Director of School Safety and Emergency Prep. Excuse me. With me is Steve Brown. Steve is going to be working in the security office with me starting when Dave Sherrill retires in October. So we've selected him to do that. His role, among other things with Alice, he'll be very involved with all the drills the schools do, the earthquake drills and the fire drills and all of that, tracking, maintaining, working with principals on different questions and issues that come up about safety with the drills, those kinds of things. He'll also be working with Alice instructors. We have 120 right now. We're going to talk about it in a minute. Next fall, we're asking for the security people in the schools to become Alice instructors as well. And then we can utilize them on PDs around other neighboring schools for consultation work, helping with barricading issues and escapement issues, those kinds of things. And one of Steve's functions is going to be to work and coordinate with those instructors and make sure we're putting a consistent message out there about the way we want Alice used. Many times there's a lot of gizmos out there that are for sale right now to barricade doors, for instance, and the fire department has issue with some of those. So we're going to make sure that our message is consistent on what kinds of things we use and how we go about doing that. There's been several questions. So the first thing I'd like to say, just as a reminder, I'm sure you all know about Alice. It's about options. Fire drills usually work. Our monthly escapement drills usually work very much the same way every time. We've all seen 1,000 of them. Alice gives us more options than that. We can run if we have to. We can go out different doors if we need to, whatever we need to do for the situation. And the other important thing about Alice as an overview is that there's no set order. It's alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. It does not have to be in that order. And in fact, many times when we run Alice drills, evacuation is one of the first things we start to do. If a teacher has a dangerous situation in the classroom, we don't want them bound to a certain order of operation. They need to do whatever they need to do to be safe first. So that's kind of the tenet of Alice. We have an online course for our staff. Steve's with me here. He was involved right after Alice's inception in the district with who was selected to get the training and to become instructors and all that. So if there's questions about that, I thought Steve being here could quickly answer those. There's a 1-hour online course, and a test has to be taken for the certificate. Each one has a license. We have 120 certified Alice instructors, and the instructor's guides that are located in District Connection, that was something we had Steve do recently. There's a whole bunch of statistics out there about these safety issues involving active shooters, armed intruders, whatever it might be. And as data continued to compile itself in the computer system to tell schools, just check the computer because everything you need is in the file, it became huge and it became hard to find and it became cumbersome. So what Steve did is he devised 3 folders. There's a primary, there's an elementary folder, there's a secondary folder, and there's a staff folder. So depending on who you're training, you have 3 places to go to find all of the pertinent, relevant data that's needed for your average training regime. And then anything beyond that, of course, all that other information is still there, it's just in a different place. So it's all still available. We just wanted to speed up the process, answer some of those quick, frequently asked type questions. So that was within the last couple of months. We're excited to modify that as needed when the school starts next fall and we get back ramped up into our Alice program again. Anything the principals communicate to us that would be helpful, we can certainly modify that as we go. So any questions on any of those so far? Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Marsett. When you talk about barricading doors, I've kind of seen those. They look really simple, but it's like a little thing that goes under the door and then it slides out. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
That's one of them. There's another one where picture a piece of fire hose that goes over the door scissors, at the top of the door that opens it to pinch it so it can't open.
Oh, yeah. It's like, and you can place it
Yep.
over the spring or?
Yeah, we are careful to approve or recommend that, and there's a couple reasons for it. I watched the principal push a door open that had one of those on it. She was able to push it open without very much force, probably enough to get through it. The other thing is a student couldn't reach that. If this teacher becomes injured or for whatever reason can't get out the door, a student needs to be able to get that defeated. So anything complicated like that, the fire department will quickly have issues with, because if it fills up with smoke and everyone's in a hurry, you know, moving little mechanisms and levers and such. Steve and I have consulted at several places. In one case, we had the principal moved a few pieces of furniture, and there's a 1, 2, 3 procedure of a file cabinet, a bookcase, and something else. And that's how you would block the doorway. And with all things that are already in the classroom that no one would have an issue with. So it always depends. One of the reasons for using the security staff around in a more regional setting, instead of just keeping them at that one school they're assigned to, is they can kind of spread that word. It's hard for us to say, don't ever use a gizmo of some kind, because maybe in that certain scenario, in that certain classroom, it might be the best thing to do. We have to go there and see it, but there's 100 schools, so that'll give us some help when we go out and consult and answer some of those questions for folks.
Don't most of our doors open out, though?
Now, they go both ways. Yeah, we find, I can't really tell you which is even more. We've seen so many of both, it's hard to say. That's why, you know, sometimes the door swings out. Well, unless there's a handle you can tie something around and hold it shut, you're just going to have to cover the doorway with stuff. That would be hard to climb over, you know. So so the answer there is it's individual. It's by the door, it's by the school, and it's hard to have a specific answer for every door. Other than, of course, locking mechanisms from the inside that you don't need a key, right? Sort of like we changed the door behind you folks for that very reason. So you can just push it open in a hurry, and you don't need any mechanism to get out of here. So,
Do all of our doors have locking mechanisms?
classrooms, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. ASD owns 538 more licenses. They're $20 or $25 a piece. 25 a piece. The reason we said that is that's what legitimizes the ALICE training in the ALICE program. And we have, according to HR, we have between 500 and 800 staff turnover a year. Not all of them are school-based. So we think that the 538 licenses we currently own will cover us for next year's growth, and then we can, we can go from there and decide if we need more. Each department has to have live ALICE training with staff prior to doing anything with students. So that's where the local questions can be confronted and answered. If that door doesn't open, if I'm in that gym over there and I don't have my backpack, what kinds of things can I do? And we can talk through all those kinds of things with the staff so that they aren't confused in front of the students. Watching these drills, many times people who might want to come help volunteer or something with the drill will be concerned. The students, they see a playground and they see what a playground looks and sounds like, and they're worried that during an ALICE evacuation we might have the same kind of thing. And what we found is we absolutely don't. I think the students look at their teachers, and when the teachers are taking this very seriously, they sense that, and they behave themselves. I think the worst behavior I've even heard about in the drills we've managed so far was once they got to the park, which was their evacuation point, one of the little girls did a cartwheel. And she was told, don't do cartwheels, this is serious. That was it. So the kids actually perform very, very well under the program. So the board has a policy for ALICE, or they're called armed intruder, active shooter drills a year. So of course, we'll be recommending one a quarter. And we'll make sure that we move around all the pieces of ALICE. Evacuation is one part. Of course, everyone needs to practice, preferably early in the year, getting to the site, their alternate site. Some school sites are half a mile away, some are just on the other side of the trees. And so it varies by the school. But we want to make sure they practice that. And then we want to also practice the lockdown, the barricading, possibly the counter, and other aspects of it as the years go on. Questions there? Good. When we go out and do drills, I'll call the police ahead of time, and we'll push the duress button for real. We'll call 911 for real, and I know that sounds simple, but is it 911, or is it 911, or is it 9 dial tone 911? Those things matter when you're in a big hurry. So I always ask the admin staff, just pretend like you're in a huge rush. What would you do? And I have them go dial 9911. That's what, and it's worked every time. Interestingly enough, things happen. Now, before a drill, teachers are very thorough people, and they like to know exactly what's to expect and what if and what if. And I always tell them the only bad thing that can happen during a drill is somebody getting hurt. Everything else that happens that we don't expect that doesn't work right, that's when we want to see it. So the secretary ran over, she dialed 911 and sat on hold for 38 seconds and didn't expect that. Well, rather than call APD and try to talk about, quickly answering the 911 call, those are the kinds of things that are going to happen to us. So we built a plan around that. Next time, if you don't get an immediate voice, you set the phone down. They get an address, they know where they're coming. That with our duress alarm, they'll know we have trouble. And you can move and use your cell phone if you want. So the point is, keep moving. Movement is the key to being safe. And so nobody should be trapped anywhere. So that's kind of the approach we're taking, rather than, part of our system didn't work right. No. That's what's going to happen to us, so we have to adapt to that. So the duress system, of course, we push the button, and then we make sure that the proper address and everything came not only from the 911 call, but from the duress button. And we don't want the staff to be afraid to touch that button. It's been made very clear throughout the district that if that button will bring the SWAT team, so don't hit that button. And they'll put covers on it, and they warn people to stay away from it. I've had people run out of the office when I went to push it one time. And we don't want, it sounds a little silly, but people do as they're trained. And we don't want people to get under stress and then not push that button because they've been told this, they're not supposed to touch it because the SWAT team will come. That's when we want the SWAT team to come. And so they get to see that it doesn't bite. It is something, we don't play with it, of course. We don't push it for no reason. But during a drill, when I've called the police and everything is set, it's a very good thing to have them do. And then we get to make sure that the police did get the signal and the power pack is up and the battery worked and all the radio. It's a radio system, so we want to make sure it's connected. So. And then communication, of course, that's going to be the intercom volume. In other words, when the principal or whoever's in charge says, okay, this is a drill, we need to evacuate the building right now. We want to make sure that the gym and the music room and the shop areas can hear, because those are loud areas sometimes. We want to make sure the volume's up and they could hear it. Their radios, we want to make sure everyone had their radio on that's supposed to have a radio on, and it was turned up and the battery was charged and all those kinds of things. And of course, voice, using your voice for communication. You got to speak up and you got to be heard. And it's not natural for people to generally yell and those kinds of things. So we want to make sure everyone's confident and communicating well. And we want to make sure all that kind of communication, all those issues are handled now while it's just a drill. So, questions there? Good. Future. This is a picture of, this is an evacuation site about a half a mile from the school, one of the Eagle River schools. It took us 13 minutes. Everyone was there and accounted for. I thought that was pretty good. We don't hold to account or emphasize how long it takes to get to your site. It's nice to get there quickly, but some sites are less than an eighth mile away and some sites are a half mile or more away. So really, it could take a while to get there, and that's okay. What we stress and what we look for is movement after the announcement. When the person in charge says we have a drill, evacuate the building. We want people moving right now. Even if they're in the classroom blocking a doorway, we want them out of their seats, moving, getting ready to defend themselves if they have to, getting ready to evacuate, whatever it is they're going to need to do, because they don't know what it is yet, so we want them ready. And so we found great response there, not only with the kids' behavior and participation, but with the speed in which they do things. 13 minutes to a site a half mile away, I thought was pretty good. The future, we're going to work with the transportation unit, the buses. Buses are a unit with many students on board with one staff member out there in the world, and it's certainly worthy of some discussion on protecting the school bus in the same way we would protect any classroom in the district. So there was one class we hosted out in the valley, and a couple folks from the Anchorage came out there, and we worked together. The bus program entails some evasive driving techniques, some countering techniques, and of course very quick evacuation techniques. And of course the alert and the inform, the communication piece as well. Radio communication, cell phones, whatever the driver might have at his or her disposal to make sure everyone knows that they've got a problem and get that bus empty and get those kids to safety. So I think that's going to be an important piece next year. Drill schedule and scenario recommendations. I've drawn up a drill schedule that very clearly outlines all the drills that are required by Alaska statute, by administrative code, or board policy. And there's about 20 a year. There are monthly fire drills, and there's a list of them, and we're going to make it very clear what has to be done. These are non-negotiable. These are all required by somebody bigger than us, the school board or the statute. And we're going to have that out. One of Steve's jobs is going to be to track those and make sure that we're getting everything done before the month is over, in case what happens is if you wait and don't do your fire drill, now it's the last day of the month and now it's 20 below, that's when I get a call from the dad saying, well, I noticed a lot of kids outside without coats on because they were in a hurry, and I don't like those phone calls. So we're going to try to get those done earlier in the month, and with reminders, and get them all tracked and logged. And then scenario recommendations, we'll be putting together different ideas. Now, the principals run the show, and they know what kind of threat, like weaknesses, like if a threat came from a certain area of the woods or a certain part of the parking lot, where they might feel vulnerable. And we're going to encourage them to drill those very things. But in addition to that, we're going to provide scenarios for the different drills. If you do an evacuation, here's a couple reasons you might want to evacuate. If you want to lock down or barricade, here's some things that could happen to you, and just give them some ideas to kind of choose from if they want to keep themselves up to speed on the drills. And then, of course, the non-school base. We can't forget this. Something bad could happen in this room right here. It could happen anywhere. So we want to make sure that everyone in the district has had some exposure to evacuation and staying out of harm's way.
Dr. Bishop.
Yeah, I'd just like to add specifically in regard to the manner in which Mr. Schmidt adds kind of that level of thinking for kids. In my experience, especially with older kids, sometimes when you have a fire drill, it's not always the teacher that's going to leave the classroom first. If a child trips, the teacher will stop, but the kids are supposed to keep going. He's had in some schools where I've worked with them, he'll create a fake fire, like with paper, and put it at an exit that, say, the 5th grade or 6th grade is always, that's their exit route. So they practice the same route all the time. He'll put a fire right in front of them, and the kids have to think, oh, what's our secondary exit route? But we don't, he doesn't tell them, but yet it's so serious and kind of empowering for kids that they stop and think without panicking, and they reroute. So this actually just becomes how we do business rather than this out there event that we don't. It's really business, and the kids are amazing. It's like a challenge to them, and they stay calm, and then, oh, we are the ones with the fire. What would be our secondary route? Let's go this way. And then, because generally the first kid's leading, everyone else follows. So it really is empowering and a pretty neat thing to do, a different way to do drills.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Is one of the scenarios, because it just came to mind, if a bus is filled with students and there's a major earthquake, does the driver take them back to the school or some other site?
I don't know that we have a procedure for that. I can certainly look and find out what's on the books right now. When we start our Alice, when we do our bus program, well, that would be a very good question to ask. Where should they go? It might depend on which are they closer to, or which site. I know if I was in a command center, I would find out where the least danger is, which structure, whether it be their home or their school, is destroyed. What's the closest safe place we can get them, is what we would do. Assigning alternate sites is something that will be part of the Alice program for the buses, where every bus driver has, if Service High, has an issue, then their alternate site would be. And it might have nothing to do with the students on the bus. It might be a police interaction at the school for some unrelated thing. We just don't want the school bus showing up right now and they have to stage for a few minutes. They'll already know where to go. We won't have to say, hey, find us parking lot someplace. They'll know they're heading for a certain place to stage and wait it out, or whatever it is they have to do. So.
Okay. And then, did I understand that we're going to have some type of a practice here?
Yes.
Yes. The board.
Yes. Absolutely. I didn't list board, but yeah, that's absolutely part of it. Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you. Ladies, Ms. Marsett.
And I've actually been at one of our schools during, in fact, the first one. And I would invite any board members to come to one of the drills, yes, and witness for yourself. The kids are amazing. They are very, I hate to say this word, resilient, but they know exactly what they're supposed to do, and it's a good thing to watch.
We'd be proud. I think you'd be proud too. I think you'd like what you see. The staff are already safety conscious. We don't have problems with that. And like I said, the only bad thing is somebody getting hurt in a drill. Other than that, it's kind of fun to watch all the hold on 911 or the different things that happen that nobody thought of is actually kind of fun. That's what, and then the debrief, we learn a ton. So,
Ms. Snelling?
First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody, who's participated in this rollout. Many of you guys know I'm a mom of 3 kids at 3 different schools, so I got 3 different lenses and filters to watch this whole thing. And it was a very different experience from each of the different schools and the principals and the children. which I thought was interesting. I think I expected more of a uniform something, and it was different. But by the time we got towards the end of the year, a lot of my, questions or concerns or anything like that were much more calm. And so I'm really like what has happened and what I have seen as a parent, but also anytime I've talked to people at community council meetings, stuff like that, there's a much calmer acceptance of what's going on. And so for everybody that's participated in that, I'm very appreciative of how this has happened over the course of the year. You had talked about in your presentation what some of the next staff steps and some of the next steps you want to take in that direction. What can kids expect next year? Is it just continuing to build that foundation, or will they see a new and additional pieces of the program that directly affect them? What will they see as a different component?
Sure, through the president. They've been exposed to the basics, the concepts. They'll see more of the same. I can't think of anything that hasn't been rolled out yet, any piece of Alice that hasn't yet, other than first grade or kindergartners. But no, it'll just be more refined drills. It'll be 4 drills a year, and it will be dynamic, different things. So it won't be the same drill every time. Hopefully, it will never be the same drill. We're always going to try to encourage a different kind of scenario every single time. Mentioned the fire department before. We are not at odds with the fire department, the code people whatsoever. I think in some circles you'll find school safety is at odds with the fire department because fire departments like doors open, people escaping, and security people like things closed and locked. Actually, if you think about it, a fire and an active shooter are very much the same. If you don't get away from them, they will hurt you, right? So we want the same thing at the end of the day. So why not use all those resources, all those codes, all those rules, all that infrastructure to do exactly what we want to do? We want to get out quickly, and that's what they want us to do. So we work actually very much hand in hand with the fire code. That's why we are careful endorsing, if you will, barricading devices and stuff. We talk to the fire department, we make sure, and they understand if we're in big trouble, if we're just keeping ourselves safe, we're going to do whatever we have to do, and they completely understand that. But just as a matter of routine, we don't want something laying there that a kid could put on a door and then nobody can get in, so that's the kind of stuff we try to talk through, so.
Dr. Bishop?
Yes, Madam President, just more food for thought in thinking about this. When Mr. Schmidt has run drills also, it really defines all the students in our school and their needs. So we'll have questions come up about immobile kids, and generally when they're in their special education class, everybody knows what to do. But sometimes when our wheelchair kids are in PE, then it's like, whoa, I haven't had this scenario. So we really target the oddities of what would look different, and so every child for every place in the building has a plan that folks are informed. So that's one of the powerful things about this drill, is that all the details are thought out and practiced, and every time you do a drill, you think of something new. You think of something else that we could better ourselves on. So it's really, I think, a really great drill for especially some of our kids with disabilities, whether it is the sound that's alarming or, no pun intended, or just the mobility is different. Because they're kids all during the day, can be anywhere in the building. And a lot of times our routine has us practicing the same, only homeroom, only homeroom, only homeroom. In fact, we'll start doing drills during lunchtime. What does it look like when everybody's in the cafeteria? And that's what should happen. It should be normal to kids.
Yeah. Glad you brought that up, the special needs evacuation, particularly with mobility issues. That's a wonderful program, because if you have an earthquake, you could have 50 special needs people you didn't have before the earthquake. And now you already know. So if we expand, what I'll be asking you to do is, what we'll be working on is expanding our special needs evacuation. They work very well right now for the special needs kids with the IEPs. But in all honesty, if more of that was available as needed, then we could shuttle injured people out of buildings, adults or students alike, and we could recruit students. If it's a sled device of some kind, there's no reason students can't pull a sled if they have to, And so that is something, as we get rolling here and the drill schedule is set and we're moving along and we're tracking and everything's good, we want to introduce an advanced or expanded special needs evacuation program, just to have it there. We don't have to use it all the time, but it could be a very handy thing all of a sudden, so.
One other thing, one of my biggest fears always as a former classroom teacher is that one of my students would be gone to the bathroom when I have to do a lockdown. And so what type of scenarios are taught to the kids if they're the only person in the bathroom?
Have you run with it?
And there's no locking door, obviously.
It looks like neither one of us has pushed that one this year. That looks like a next year thing. Do the bathrooms lock? In many cases, no. So it's not a place to stay. As we don't encourage hiding because we know what that means now, unless it's the only option. During a stay put, or a lockdown, we don't encourage any movement. If the kid's already out there, then communication, inform is what's going to save us there. That's telling someone else who might be in the hallway, hey, we've got a kid in the bathroom, get him back into my room or take custody of this child, and we'll keep him protected. But we can certainly, as we develop the scenarios, we can add that in. That's a good one. Sure.
Thank you. Other board member questions, comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, we're done with the, obviously, the reporting on Alice, and our focus on staff and students doesn't begin until 5:30. However, Dr. Bishop has asked if she could introduce one of our new employees.
Yes, I would, we completed some hiring and have a new employee that I'd like you to know. I'm going to ask Mr. Hess to introduce our new contract administrator.
Members of the board, I'd like to introduce Director of Contract Administration, Jennifer Haldane. Jennifer, if we could put you on the spotlight for a moment and ask you to step up to the center podium there.
This is the position for which Mike Dingus formerly held.
So Todd did not prep me for this.
Surprise.
My name is Jennifer Haldane. I've been in Anchorage for 22 years. I've had two children graduate through ASD. My background, I was with the law firm of Germain, Dunnigan & Owens for 17 years. And then most recently was with two public corporations, ADA and the Alaska Energy Authority. I was the human resources director for them. I have a bachelor's in HR, a master's in management, 3 professional certifications, and then I'm also a certified health coach, just because that interests me. I don't do anything with it, so. And I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you and welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And with that, those are the updates. So we have about an hour hiatus before we begin.
So we'll go into recess. I have a question, though. Could we do something out of the ordinary, and can we move the executive session to this period of time and then come back?
Absolutely. I mean, we certainly can do that if there's a
Do any
vote.
board members have any objection to that? Then that would mean we could actually have a dinner hour. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we move the executive session from 6 o'clock to 4:30 for the purpose of superintendent evaluation
And
and,
contract update.
contract negotiations.
Update.
Update.
It's been moved. Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any objections? We're in executive session. We're going to come out of recess to do our recognition of staff and students. And I'm going to do the first part, and Dr. Bishop is going to do the second part. First part, we're honoring 5 students this evening who are Anchorage School District students who have qualified for the Presidential Volunteer Service Award. And we're going to call them up one by one and give them an opportunity. Also, a little heads up that we're going to have you just talk briefly about some of the volunteer work that you accomplished that gave you the number of hours necessary to qualify for this award. And so our first recipient today is Melissa Berger, who is a student at East High School. Melissa, would you come up? Give her a big So I do know Melissa personally because of my Rotarian work with East Interact Club, and she's been a member of the Interact Club for a couple of years. But to garner the number of hours necessary to get the bronze award that Melissa's receiving today, she needed to have done work far beyond the lunchtime meeting and after-school work that is the Interact Club at East does. So would you tell us a little bit about some of the things that you've done? You gotta kiss the mic.
Okay. One of the major things I've done was Pipeline, which was a 50-hour leadership summit institute that I went to for a week, which was really fun. It was super inspiring, and I really loved it. I learned a whole bunch about leadership. And I've done other leadership skills like AK Hopes for Dreams. One of my favorite ones would probably has to be Miss Amazing, which is a beauty pageant celebrating abilities with women with disabilities. And it's just a beautiful experience. You get to work with people with disabilities, and you get a chance to see them shine. And it's so inspiring because and they even cry when they win, and it's just really beautiful.
Thank you, Melissa. And you have an officer position next year in Interact, do you not?
Yep, Vice President.
So thank you very much. Let's all give her a big hand. Thank you. There's been a run. This is a good thing that there are so many people in our country qualifying for these Presidential Volunteer Service Award that they ran out of the bronze medals. But I know where to find you, and when it arrives, it will be coming to you. So there's a medal coming with that certificate. And right, this just to show you, underneath, and for all subsequent students who receive these, there's a letter from the president that's underneath the certificate. So thank you very much. Our next recipient is Reese Perez, who's from Chugiak High School. So Reese, I know about Reese not through an Interact Club, but through actually a news article that was posted in the Alaska Dispatch News about the number of bowls that he made personally for the Empty Bowl Project that benefits Beats Cafe. And in talking with him, I learned that this wasn't a first-time event, so I'm going to let him tell you what he did. It's pretty amazing.
So for this event, for the Bowls for Beans event, I made 100 bowls by myself at Chugiak High School every day, sometimes during lunch and sometimes even after school, at one point on the weekends. And every single day I would make a bowl, or I started off making 2 a day, and then I eventually worked up to 4, maybe 5 a day. And it just it progressed. And the reason why I did this is because last year I heard about the event and I only made about 8. And Chugiak as a school wanted to break 100. And so I told my teacher, you know what, next year I will break the record by myself. And it was definitely a challenge, but I had motivation from my friends, my family, and every single day, I was pressed for time because I knew that I had to get it done. I promised my teacher, I promised my friends that I would do this for Chugiak, and eventually I pulled through, and it was a fantastic event. Hearing that I raised money for people who can't afford a meal, and it made me happy doing this event.
And I'm a proud recipient of one of his bowls because I purposely, when you go to the event, you can look, and I kept saying, I want one by this artist, and they found me one. So I'm very proud of that. And the next, as you heard, you will be receiving your bronze award. You just graduated.
Yes.
So you need to make sure I have a mailing address.
Okay.
Okay. Our next recipient is Jernay Scott, who receives a silver award, and she is from East High School. She's not able to be here this evening, but on her behalf is her principal, Mr. Sam Spinella. And I am familiar with Jernay also because she was in the same Interact Club as Melissa, and I knew of her service, particularly in the Random Pies of Kindness event that the East High Interact Club did this past year. But I was unaware until she turned in the hours of the hundreds and hundreds of hours she spent over the last 4 years working in soup kitchens and in helping to serve those who are challenged to find daily meals. So it's pretty inspiring, and please give her our appreciation. And you get to wear this for the moment. It's a silver award. You want to wear it. Would you like to say anything, Mr. Smith?
We're very proud of our students who are able to accomplish such a feat. Thinking about the number of hours that they can, well, I need to swallow this thing, don't I? So the number of hours that they put in, it's amazing. They keep up with their schoolwork, and they continue to do really well. So we're really proud of them. Thank you very much.
Our next award is Hannah Bromberg, and she's from West High School. And she is receiving the gold medal. And that indicates over 250 hours of service. This is like in the Olympics.
You have to bite it like they do.
No, don't bite it. I don't take responsibility for that. So she also was in the Interact Club at West, and she's going to tell you a little about all the activities that they did this year.
So yeah, I'm part of the West High Interact Club, and this last year I was treasurer, and this year I was elected as vice president. And as a club, we've done a lot of projects over Christmas. We created care packages to send to some Army troops. We've also been in the process of constructing a little lending library to go outside of our school. So yeah.
Tell us about the other things you did beyond the Interact Club.
Okay, and outside of Interact Club, one of the main things I did to receive the Gold Award was I volunteered with the Student Conservation Association, which is a conservation group that takes students committed to conserving and protecting the environment and the natural resources. And last summer I spent a month in Kenai Fjords National Park working to repair trails so that we could enjoy them for the future.
I want to speak about the last student who couldn't make it tonight, but it is Michaela Wilson. She's also a West High student, a graduate, and she also is receiving the Gold Award. And her name, the last name is well known to Anchorage School District employees because her father, Marcus Wilson, works here in the administration building, and her mother has been very involved. So she works with NECA IBEW. She's very involved with the School Business Partnership Program for over 15 years. She was at West. She was at West. And Michaela has done services in her blood, and it's also nurtured by her parents, and she has done far more than the 250 hours that were needed in order to receive this award. So we're proud of all these students. Let's give them all another big hand.
At this time, I'd like to invite the entire board to the front. We are going to honor some of our retired teachers who have 25 plus years of service. And we would like for all of us to shake their hand just like they were at graduation all these years. So again, as our board president mentioned, at this part of the agenda, we like to celebrate success, and it's a focus on success and what makes ASD great, and it always goes back to the people, whether they're teachers, our kids, our other staff, our parents. What goes into the district is what makes it great, and that's really the work that people do. So in that light, I just like to say working in education isn't always easy, but it's always worth it, especially to make a positive difference in the lives of students. And we just saw some of those students whose lives have been enriched, and they also have then enriched our community. Today we've invited some special guests to the board meeting to thank them for their work.
I'd like to invite all of our retirees to come forward, and these folks have given at least 25 years of service to ASD and our community. Thank you for your time and caring of our students. So if you're present, please come forward. You can come right over here. Today you will receive a really cool gift, a copper mug. And please afterwards join us for some cake and sparkling cider. That is not wine out there, just so you know. For a little mini reception. In the next few weeks, you will also receive a gold card in the mail, and the gold card is a lifetime pass to get you into the district activities and sporting events free of charge. So thank you to all of our teachers, additional staff, our aides, librarians, all the folks that make ASD great. So with that, I would like to announce, first on the list but last in the line, is from the Education Center, Dion Bonin, the Executive Secretary with 26 years of service. Please bow on down the line. And from West High School, Counselor Miriam Dean, 33 years of service. And from Special Schools and Secondary Ed, Cynthia Franklin with 25.5 years of service. And I'd also like to announce our first elementary teacher from Homestead, Robin Hopper, 33 years of service. Congratulations. And right here from the district office, we're able to see her face all the time and bring us extra money. She worked in the grants department. Corinne McVie with 33 years of service. That is a lucky number. And serving ASD for 25 years from Baggage Middle School, Robin Tozer. And last, serving as a supervisor in the 21st Century Grant Program, Susan Williams. And I should know this next one. Linda, come on forward and tell us how many years.
It's been 27 years in the Anchorage School District.
And do you want to share all the programs and things?
Well, certainly. Started as a teacher, so when you announced teachers, that was sort of the reason that it came up. But I think of myself as a teacher. But I have overseen, elementary ed at one time, special programs, the grant programs, Title VII, Title III, Title IIA, Title I. Special education has been wonderful. So, anyway.
Fantastic. Linda Carlson. And while we had many others, they're already retired enjoying their summer, but those that are with us, we'd love for them and their families to take one big picture and then eat cake. Thank you. That's all. Do you guys want to get in front of the board? Yes, get in front of the board. They won't do any funny ears.